Edmund, welcome to the Game Informer Show, sir.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's an honor to have you back, I guess. Like, I was looking through the archives of this show. We had you and Tommy on in August of 2015.
2015?
Yeah, it was just like I think it was just a general recap. You guys were talking a little bit about Meat Boy Forever. I remember you talked about how you had an idea for Meat Boy 2.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
It was a random call. We're going to cover the exact same topics, a lot of eugenics talk, just everything you'd ever hope for.
Perfect.
Yeah. How's your life been since then?
It's been busy. I mean, since then I almost have a 3-year-old baby, so that's a big jump.
Congratulations! In that interview, you mentioned that your wife's about to give birth.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's crazy. Yeah, yep. She's gonna be 3 in 2 months, and she's insane.
Is it having a big impact on your game development time?
I mean, it's just reprioritized my life for the most part. Just making sure that there's a tremendous amount of guilt that goes along with the workaholic aspect of what I do. And it's a good counterbalance, really. It's like keeping me grounded in a lot of ways.
Grounded. Okay. It's just like set aside certain time for this is baby time. This is game time.
Yeah. I mean, in the past, I used to work obsessively to the point of it being a detriment to my relationship. And I've tapered back. And with this new project, I've been able to include my wife in it, and we're able to work alongside each other, which is super awesome.
Yeah. So it's Binding of Isaac 4 Souls. So this is the Kickstarter project for the card game version of Binding of Isaac. Is that the correct
Yeah.
summary?
I mean, that's basically it's a multiplayer card game version of the Binding of Isaac.
Awesome. And how important was it for you to involve Danielle with this whole thing?
I mean, I couldn't have done it without her completely. Like from the beginning too. I mean, she dealt a lot with the production side of things and promotion side of things. She, like, most of the Kickstarter ideas were hers, like the trailer and the animated how to play stuff. All that was her. Yeah. And and she's of course been the #1 play tester, and she's helped with the campaign thoroughly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was crucial because the last crunch that I did, which was for The End Is Nigh, that was like the worst crunch because Peach was getting ready to turn. It was like about a year ago. She was closing in at 2. She was being really hellish, and I was working constantly, and we had no help, and Danielle was just with her 24/7, and she was losing her mind. Okay. So I didn't want to do that again. So it was really important to have her alongside. So we Danielle's sister, and we also hired a babysitter to help as well.
Nice. I mean, you've seen so much of the game industry at this point. You've had an interesting vantage point. What do you think about the Kickstarter process? Is it different than you expected? Any surprises along the way?
The Kickstarter aspect was it was different than I expected. Like going in, I remember people asking me back in the day, like, would you ever kickstart development on a game or whatever, like digitally? And I was like, there's no way in hell I would ever. It's just like such a horrible thing to do, is have something that you just have an idea for, and then you don't know if it's going to completely function the way that you think it's going to function. And then you ask a bunch of people for money and get them hyped up about it. And then you realize like halfway through that maybe it's not exactly what it should have been. And you can't really move past that because you promised this stuff to these people. So when I was initially approached, I was approached by Studio 71, who Garima and Javon dealt with the Kickstarter, the actual making of the Kickstarter page, and all of the production side, the actual like putting together the cards, all the business transactions, all that sort of stuff too. When they approached me and said, "Hey, are you interested in doing a Binding of Isaac card game on Kickstarter?" My initial reaction was, "No, I don't want to do that.
Leave me alone."
I'm not. Yeah, basically that's how I am with like anybody who comes and asks me a question. I scream, "Leave me alone," and run. But they kind of planted a seed, and I kept thinking about like, what would a Binding of Isaac game, like a physical game, be? Because initially they were like a board game, and I was like, I don't know. It was just running in there, and I thought, oh, like I could kind of totally like redesign all the mechanics of all the different characters and all the different items, everybody's favorite things, and kind of reimagine them in a multiplayer card game. And I started working on that, and after a week I had a prototype that was playable, and after about a month of testing that, I recontacted them. I'm like, hey, it's been a year. I don't know I don't know if this offer is still on the table, but I have something and it's legit. And but basically the mistake I didn't want to make was I don't want to go in having something that's just an idea and then everybody can, give me input on it or help me finish it. This was essentially a finished product that just needed to be produced.
Right. And they understand production, so it's like there's really very little risk here compared to the average Kickstarter for I'm sure you thought back on this, you even subtly hinted at it, but like if you would Kickstarter mutagenics, like what a nightmare that would have been.
Yeah. Holy God. You have no idea. That would have ended my career. That really would have. If I would have done that, that would have been a terrible idea.
Just imagine.
But at least I had that foresight. I had the foresight to not do that. I mean, I know so many people who are locked into existing Kickstarters that they've kickstarted ages ago. And, after a certain amount of time passes, your biggest fans become your worst enemies.
Oh, yeah.
They want you dead.
Do you have any of that, though? Just even not kickstarting it? Just people being teased with the concept of this mutagenics cat sim game, and they just constantly bug you?
Mutagenics will haunt me till the end, but I mean, mutagenics will happen one day. It's going to happen. It is a guarantee. It's something that I want to finish, and it's something that I've been prototyping again with Tyler, who I worked on the End Is Nigh with. So there's no doubt in my mind that eventually I'll circle back to it. It's just I know, like, when working on certain projects, you can usually feel within the first few weeks or few months of the project how big the wave is. Like how far is this going to carry, right?
Okay.
And for Mugenics, on my end, I had this huge wave. I felt like I could ride this thing for 3 years development wise, but not everybody else was feeling it, and it kind of just died like right there. And it was like, well, I guess we'll move on to something else. We can, do Super Meat Boy forever or whatever else. But I definitely want to circle back at some point, and I want to finish this because it's always been in the back of my head. And since leaving Team Meat, when working with Tyler, it was like we started talking about, well, what could Mugenics be in the future? Like what could we turn it into? And I've got quite a few ideas, and we've been prototyping a lot of different things and making it crazier. And I mean, it's one of those feature creep games that revels in how much of a feature creep it is. Like it is. Right. It is. It's like kind of like Isaac is now. It's this endless ball of chaos that just keeps unfolding. And so yeah, I mean, once I get to a point where I'm comfortable with my home life, and I'm comfortable with everybody I'm working with, and everything's moving smoothly, I would love to jump back in and finish that. Yeah. But it'll probably take like 3 years of work.
And you can kickstart the tabletop version of Mugenics.
Yeah. And I'll kickstart, and then I'll kill myself.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I might as well just kickstart my suicide. I mean, it's fine. Like how much people want to drop down on? You can pledge the different ways I die.
It's a family show. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Eugenics.
Hey, Eugenics. There we go. The Kickstarter. I mean, what's it at right now? 1.5 million.
Oh man. No, we're at 2. What is it? About 2.1.
And what was your goal?
50 grand. That's what we needed in order to like pay the artists and start production.
So what the fuck happens now? You live in a mansion? Where does that money go?
Oh yeah, I don't get much money. This is okay. So this is the sad spoiler for all the people who see that and think, wow, Edmund's really made it. There's this thing called overhead. And I'll tell you right now, with all the stuff that we've done with this, I'm not bringing home much money. I'm doing this because it's super fucking fun. I may make money in the end. Like it's like funding the initial lump order of a bazillion units, right? That go to people. The more we order, the less they cost. But currently they cost a lot, especially with the figures and everything else. Like even just buying a mold, buying the mold for the figures is like more than 10 grand for one of them.
That's so wild.
It's like, so it really, you take a huge hit, but then, the higher the number goes, the more evenly spread everything is. Yeah. And, but I'm definitely, it sounds stupid, especially when like looking at the number, but I'm not doing it for money. I'm doing it because this is a really fun project. And I've been waiting for the opportunity to do Isaac merch forever. We've tried so hard to do Isaac merchandise and try to maintain our own shop, and it's been a disaster. Like we just could never keep up with the demand. And we could never really make any profit off of the stuff that we sold, especially due to shipping and stuff like that. So it was it was pretty important to have Studio 71 kind of come in and Garima and Jabon do the math for me, so I didn't fuck everything up. We're not losing money, but we're not taking home a big chunk, and the chunk that we take home is split, between everybody involved, but it's still a huge success.
Oh, yeah.
We're not gonna pull all the biggest Kickstarter stories usually end in a disaster. You find out that that they made $9 million and then they lost money off of it.
Yeah.
It's like, that's what Javon and Garima are there to make sure we don't do that. Because I've done that. I've done that in the past. Merchandise overhead is stupid. Like you're like, how? So I have to order 10,000 stress balls in order to sell them for $5 and make 50-cent profit. Like it's like some stupid thing like that. And it's like, what? How does that even work? Like, and how do I get that many thousand people to buy something like this?
Yeah. So I mean, ideally though, if people miss like the Kickstarter window when they listen to this or watch this, I mean, are you hoping that this is sold on store shelves at a certain point? You can just walk into a Target and pick this thing up. I'm finding of Isaac. That's a good brand you got there, man.
Yeah, that'll be weird. If I ever see it in Target, I'm taking a picture because that's going to be strange. Yeah, I mean, I assume that the goal is to get it in stores. But the thing is the version that we're selling in stores is going to be a much lesser version of the Kickstarter one.
Oh, really? Okay, this is a special thing.
A little bit more because when you sell something in stores, overhead wise, they take their big chunk, so you have to raise the price by a little bit in order to make the margin.
Yeah.
So like the only version of the game that can be sold outside of Kickstarter, because it's Kickstarter exclusive mostly, is the base game, and the base game sells for $25 online, and it'll probably sell for between $30 and $35 in the stores in order to make that back.
Right. Okay. So you mentioned End is 9, how rough it was to get that out the door. What was the response like for you? Were there any surprises along the way once you actually shipped that thing based on the reaction?
I didn't do any press. It was okay. Yeah. So the End is 9 came out of a spot of a really low point in my life overall, where I had just been through a really experience. And I wanted to write about it, and that's pretty much what the End is 9 was. And I didn't feel comfortable talking about it. Like it sounds weird. I didn't really feel that comfortable like doing interviews and talking about the game. And I just wanted to release something mostly for me. And it would help Tyler make some money too. And I just wanted to put it out there and be done with it. Just so it was like a purge. I was purging these feelings and stuff. And it was fun to do as well. So I didn't do any press, and I think I gave people a week before it came out. Like it just dropped out of the sky. And we ended up selling like 100,000 copies in the year over the 2 platforms that we released for. So it's been my least successful game, but personally probably one of my best games.
Really?
Easily.
It still means a lot.
I think it's my best platformer, honestly. I think it is one of my best games and definitely my best platformer.
Really?
I mean, I don't think people are going to share that. It's hard to like even going in and standing against Meat Boy when it came to like, okay, here's what I'm known for Isaac and I'm known for Meat Boy. And I'm making a platformer that's going to be compared to Meat Boy. Just going into that is an impossible feat. And I knew that going in, but I'm going to do it because, it's been like 9 years. So I should be able to outdo myself at this point. And if I can't, then I must suck as a designer. So I went in and I did it, and I came out feeling very, very accomplished and proud of my work.
Yeah.
The game is super alienating, super stressful, super difficult, and super depressing. It is not remotely poppy.
Yeah.
It does not have mass appeal. And to have the freedom to do something like that is really awesome. Like in a lot of ways, it was what I was trying to do with Isaac. I thought Isaac was going to be this niche little weirdo game for weirdos that, most people wouldn't like and could never be a mainstream success. And it turned out the End is 9 was that instead.
Yeah, that works. That's all right. How are you?
It was important. It was an important experience for me overall, and important for me to release the game.
Yeah. How are you feeling about Meat Boy now these days?
Like looking back?
What's that?
Like looking back on it?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I mean, it still feels like a high point. I really loved working on it, and it's hard to not separate the personal strife, like the uphill battle that we went through when making it. It definitely stands the test of time. It still feels really good. I don't know if the controls feel as good to me anymore, but it could just be due to the end is nigh, because I feel like we kind of improved on the controls
Oh, that's
a
interesting.
lot. But and of course my graphics aren't spectacular compared. We were using like a PNG render type situation, so like it wasn't vectors, so it wasn't like really pretty.
Yeah.
So it looks rough. I mean, that's what I usually, when I see my work, I usually see, oh, that looks visually, that looks rough. I should have hired somebody that was a better artist to do something like that, but I didn't have the money.
It's gonna lose the charm.
Design wise, I'm super proud of my design. I'm super proud of the controls that I came up with. The characters, of course, the story. And
Yeah.
the levels are super solid.
Do you
sure.
feel like a lot of your DNA is still in Forever at this point too?
I don't know. I have no idea what they're really doing with it at this point.
Really?
I mean, I've been out of communication with Team Meat for a year and a half, 2 years.
This is very confusing to the outside world. I feel like every demo of Super Meat Boy Forever, it's just Tommy. And I think a lot of people go in for that appointment at E3 or whatever, and it's like, wait, where's Edmund? What's going on here?
Yeah,
So-
I get that. I get a bunch of emails saying like, "See you at PAX. I'll see you in the interview." And I was like, "What? What's happening?" It's like,
Yeah.
"No, sorry." I tried to let people know. I hope nobody's. I would feel comfortable. I would feel more comfortable if people knew that I wasn't there. But I know that that's probably not in everybody's interest to make sure that it's known that I'm not there.
Okay,
But
so
I'm not. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what is left over from when I worked on Super Meat Boy Forever, because when I worked on Super Meat Boy Forever, it was a mobile game.
yeah,
And I designed the controls for mobile, like the left, right of the screen. And we had some random level generation. I had some chunks made, and I had the initial cartoony look and stuff of the game, and that was kind of the skeletal structure that we had.
right.
But I don't know where it is now.
So I'm so confused. I just always thought Team Meat was you and Tommy, but you
No, I left. I officially left. I left
Okay.
the company.
right. And so now Tommy's working with other folks on.
Yeah, he's working with Kyle Pulver, I know, who did Offspring Fling, some older indie games and stuff.
Yeah.
I think he's working with other people too, but I don't really know who they are.
Does that get stressful just in terms of, wait a minute, yeah, who owns the Super Meat Boy rights? Is that just an extra layer on top of this, what I imagine was a complicated divorce?
Well, I mean, it is what it is. I walked away from it. I have the rights to Mugenics and the other projects that I've been working on, and Team Meat is Super Meat Boy. The honestly, the hardest aspect is just walking away from something where the characters are so personal.
Right.
Like Meat Boy is me, and Bandage Girl is Danielle, and the game's original story was pretty personal take on kind of an unplanned pregnancy situation, which I have never really gone into. So yeah, it's a super personal story, and I assume it's just going to move away from that, and it's going to become whatever they want it to become, and I'm sure they'll do a great job on whatever they end up doing.
Was it frustration, or what led you to leave?
It was a lot of stuff. Things get complicated, and lives change, and people kind of grow apart, and everybody has different things that they feel are more important than other things. And I really want to have fun and try to really enjoy making games and not worry too much about something being successful or guaranteeing success. And I'm not the kind of person that really worries too much about that stuff either. So I take bigger risks, and bigger risks aren't the most comfortable thing for everybody, I think.
Interesting. Okay. Because I remember, back in 2015, you were talking about like, I have an idea for where I'd like to bring Super Meat Boy 2 if we ever get around to it. And it's just one of those things, just leave it all behind. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, sometimes sometimes, you got to close the book and move on. But, I mean, Tommy's a smart guy. I'm sure he can do some really cool stuff with whoever he's working with too.
Yeah, for sure.
There's no doubt.
Yeah. How are you feeling about the games industry these days? You still enjoying your time in it?
Am I enjoying my time? I'm enjoying my time right now.
Of course. Yeah. Successful Kickstarter, man. It's exciting.
The Kickstarter has been so fun. It's just been really fun. It's like, it doesn't feel like I'm working in the industry. It feels like I'm working with fans. Like, and I am. Like, all the artists that we hired for the project are all people that sent me fan art for The Binding of Isaac or Meat Boy over the years. And they were just so amazing, and I was so impressed. And I'd use them on different projects, and then now they're all together on this really cool project, and they're so excited. Like, everybody involved is super, super, super excited, and you can see it in their work. So yeah, I mean, really, the card game has really filled me back up. Like after The End Is Nigh, I had this, The End Is Nigh, I had that huge drop. And then after The End Is Nigh, like, kind of coming back up again, working on Bumbo stuff, cruising. Then it was like getting back into Isaac, and then releasing the final booster pack with The Forgotten. Then it was like, oh, okay, this is cool. And then designing the card game, it just was like, whoop. And it's like, I feel like I'm back up where I was before.
Yeah.
And I feel like I have not necessarily more faith in the industry, but I have more faith in understanding that I can still make myself happy with my work. And it's so nice to be able to try different things. It felt very free to kind of go and jump into this kind of social multiplayer physical game.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. How much of it is just good vibes and good feedback and kind of a community sense from working with those other artists and other folks?
It is. I mean, it's a lot of that. It's working with my wife, being able, like, just testing. Like, we would test twice a week for months with my friends and and people who don't play video games and stuff like that. Like, people come over and our niece and nephew and come over, eat pizza, test Isaac, play a bunch of other board games. It was just a super fun social. It just is the opposite of making indie games digitally. Like, It feels, because it's so isolating, and making indie games so isolating and so depressing at times, because you're in this headspace where you think what you're doing is cool, you think it's good, you don't know for sure because you get tunnel vision, and it's just and then you'll test it with somebody and you'll be looking at their face and you'll be like, are they enjoying themselves? Like, is this good? It's like, okay. And then you'd, like, write down all the information that it's like, okay, well, I should fix this, I should fix that. And you go back to your hole and you slowly wither away in your chair as you fix the other things. And then, months later, you'll go and do it again. It's like with the card game, it's like, hey guys, want to play this card game? Let's all sit down. We play. Everybody's happy. Everybody's having fun. You see the emotion in their faces. Everybody's super into it. And then you see one flaw and you're like, oh, that doesn't work. All right, let's do another game and we'll try with this roll.
Right.
Done. It's like, it's the easiest thing. Like, compared to digital games, it is the easiest thing in the world to kind of, like, edit like that. And the social and political aspect of that kind of multiplayer environment is so amazing when it comes to balance, like, because you can make totally busted things and then the politics of the game will balance it. Like, if you see somebody who gets too far ahead or has an item that's totally busted, that person's going to get shit on by everybody else and no one's going to help them. They're going to totally destroy them, which has been really cool. And a lot makes things pretty easy.
Yeah, and once you got, like, the manufacturing down, I mean, that's the hard part. Once you understand, like, that whole process and that pipeline, I mean, do you want to keep working in this space for a while then?
I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, I'd like to probably make, at this point, I'd like to make some more cards for the game to make it bigger, because there's a lot of items and bosses and stuff that I have not even touched that I would like to put in the game, and I know the artists want more money, and I'm sure they'd be happy to keep drawing. So there's no doubt in the future I'll probably do a little expansion for this. But I mean, this fell out of the sky. Honestly, just like making indie games did. Like, I was making Flash games at home just interactive bullshit, right? I didn't think that they were games. And then I needed a job, and I looked around locally, and I found out there's this place called Chronic Logic down the street, and they made indie games. And I was like, what's indie games? It's like, oh, independent video games. What does that mean? Oh, you're not funded. It's like this is like early 2000s.
Yeah.
And I go there, and I'm like, hey, are you looking for an artist? And they're like, yeah. And then I get hired, and then I start making Gish. It's the same thing. It's like, as an artist, I'm a big fan of just staying open to every possibility. And if something feels right, you just kind of move towards it, and you see where it's going to take you. So I don't know if I'll make more physical stuff. I mean, I have to finish Bumbo. So
yeah, how's that going to feel, making that transition back to, all right, now to focus and just sit in my basement and make Legend of Bumbo?
I think it'll be a big relief, because at this point it's like, yeah, the Kickstarter was fun, but it was so busy. The busiest thing you could ever imagine. It's just constantly go, 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 go. So it'll be nice to just kind of be like, okay, now today I'm in Bumbo. I'm going to start testing all the items that James put in. I'm going to write feedback. I'm going to pad out what's missing. I'm going to, do play tests of the game. It just seems so easy in comparison.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I definitely welcome it. Like, I'm an introverted person, and I've been extroverted for the past couple months, really. So it'll be nice to just go back to being a hermit.
Yeah. And you're still looking to get Bumbo out this year then?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, hey, Binding of Isaac, 4 Souls. You can back it if you're listening or watching this on Thursday. Oh, he's got a physical edition. He's holding up for the audio listeners. That looks nice, man. That looks very nice.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
I'll describe for the listeners. I'll describe what's in this box. So
please.
It's a very large, dark box that looks like a chest, and inside it has a bunch of stuff that people unlocked. It has a stained glass transparent sticker. It has a sticker with the 4 main characters on it.
Very cute.
It has a Binding of Isaac Bible Thump pin. Now every box is getting these too.
That's awesome, man.
This will be the biggest tease in the world for people who are listening to this on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. Comes with this handy dandy bag, which this one is not custom yet, but it'll actually be like a custom bag with like a little scent symbol on it. They just unlocked that.
Yeah.
Here's all the cards sleeved at this point. This is my personal prototype.
Okay.
And it also has a Tom Bunk. It's stuck in here. Tom Bunk, the artist, one of the main artists for Garbage Pail Kids.
What?
This isn't actually it, but he did a postcard, like original Binding of Isaac art for a postcard, which everybody gets as well.
That's awesome.
And then you get the soundtrack. Yes, there's a soundtrack. The Ridiculon did a soundtrack, an easy listening Binding of Isaac medley for everybody, as well as the theme song for the game, 4 Souls.
That's awesome. So you can just play it every time you play the board game. I love that type of stuff, man.
Yeah. It all came from my wife. We got into the escape room stuff.
Yeah.
Which is super fun. Very reminiscent of some of the stuff I was doing for the Kickstarter. And her sister got really into it with us, and then she started buying physical escape room games, and they recommend that you like on your Alexa play this certain song, and it'll build the tension as it goes. So it was like, Daniel's like, why don't we just do that for Isaac? Can you do it? And I'm like, yeah, I'll just have Matthias do an endlessly looping, easy listening Binding of Isaac medley.
That's
Sounds
awesome.
like elevator music. It's great.
That's so cool. Binding of Isaac, 4 Souls. Anything else you want to plug, man?
Follow me on Twitter, Edmund McMillen on Twitter.
There we go.
Yeah, James and I should have Bumbo out by the end of the year. I should have some more Binding of Isaac news by the end of the year. And maybe more news on this by the end of the year too.
He's holding up the box again.
This will hopefully ship in November.
Jesus, that's a tight turnaround. Best of luck to you, man.
We're basically finished with it. The art is 96% finished. So I just need to put the cards together in the next couple of weeks.
Sweet.
And then get them tested.
There we go. It's doable. Edmund, thank you for your time, sir. Always nice talking to you.
Thank you.
That was just a clip from a larger show called The Game Informer Show. You can find it on iTunes, Google Play, or GameInformer.com. We take the fun opportunities and exclusive information from Game Informer magazine and boil it into a show that airs every Thursday with exclusive cover story information, developer interviews, a lot of fun stuff. So come love games with us.